They left a note. No goodbye. No warning. Just ink on paper taped to the fridge like a grocery list. Don't look for us. We need freedom. So I didn't. My name is Ethan Blake. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been abandoned by the very people who raised you, not because they had to, but because they wanted out? I stared at the note while my coffee went cold. The house was quiet, too quiet for a Monday morning. My parents weren't just out for a walk. Their shoes were gone. So was their luggage. And so was every dollar in our joint account. They'd emptied it. All of it. All the years I spent working 2 jobs, transferring money home so they wouldn't lose the house, gone. All the late nights explaining to my boss why I was missing meetings to drive them to doctor's appointments, gone. I didn't panic. I didn't even text. I opened my laptop, called my bank, and froze everything I had access to. Then I called my lawyer, told him to secure the property title and remove their co-signature. And then I left. Not in anger. Not in revenge. But with the peace of someone who had finally understood his place in the story. 3 days later, I was sitting poolside in Maui, sipping cold coconut water and breathing for the first time in months. No calls. No guilt. No begging. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go. But when I landed back on the mainland 2 days later, my lawyer called. Ethan, he said slowly, they're here. Who? Your parents. They've been standing outside my office for hours. Crying. Shaking. Saying it was all a misunderstanding. I didn't reply right away. Then I walked to the window of my hotel suite, looked out at the skyline and smiled. They asked for freedom. They got it. But the thing about freedom? It doesn't come with a refund. I told my lawyer, don't let them in. He hesitated. They look destroyed, Ethan. I'm sure they do. Then I hung up. That evening I got an email. No subject. No name. Just a few lines. Ethan, please. We were confused. It was your father's idea, but I followed. We didn't mean to hurt you. Just come meet us. One time. Please. They signed it, Mom. It would have crushed me a year ago. But not now. Not after what they pulled. See, my parents weren't just parents. They were users. Parasites dressed as caregivers. And I, their golden goose. When my dad's business tanked, I paid their mortgage. When my mom got sick, I postponed grad school. When the roof leaked, I didn't sleep for 3 days so I could freelance enough to cover it. Every sacrifice I made, every lost friend, every skipped date, every burnout, I told myself it was love, family, loyalty. But that note? That note ripped it all apart. I agreed to the meeting. Not for them. For me. To see their faces. To witness their reckoning. I met them at my lawyer's office, neutral ground. They stood as I entered like they still had the right to. My mom looked older. Hollow. Her mascara had bled into her skin. My dad, usually so proud and loud, looked like a man who'd been slapped awake mid-dream. Ethan, my mom whispered. We didn't mean to. You left me a note. I cut in. No call. No message. Just don't look for us. My dad tried to speak, but I raised a hand. I gave you freedom. Now you want comfort again? We were scared, he said. The debt. The pressure. We thought if we left you'd stop. Stop saving you? I laughed. That was the goal? There was silence. Thick. Regretful. We're losing the house, Mom finally said. We didn't know the accounts would freeze. You should have read the terms. Like I read the note. They didn't speak again. Just stared at the floor. The lawyer looked at me. Do you want to negotiate? I stood. No. And as I walked out, I turned back once, just for the poetry of it. I hope freedom feels worth it. Because that's all you've got now. They tried to spin the story. Told my relatives I'd abandoned them. That I'd cut them off without warning. But lies are weak when truth has receipts. I posted the note on Facebook. Just a photo. No caption. Let the ink speak for itself. In 24 hours, my inbox exploded. Wait, your mom said you moved without telling them. Your dad told us he kicked you out because you were gambling. I'm so sorry, Ethan. We had no idea. That's when the calls started, not from them but from people they'd leaned on. Aunt Rose messaged me. They tried to borrow $10,000 last week. Said it was for emergency hospital bills. I'm guessing that was a lie. I just replied with a screenshot of the bank withdrawal. The one they made the day before they disappeared. They weren't in trouble. They were trying to start over, with my money. But they didn't know that I'd protected myself the moment I saw the signs. 3 years ago, I started quietly moving assets. Set up a trust. Got independent legal representation. Switched joint accounts to monitored ones. I was done being their safety net. So when they ran, they thought they took everything. What they didn't realize was, they left me with my power. And took only the weight I'd been dying to drop. Weeks passed. I heard they'd moved in with an old friend. Then got kicked out. Then tried renting a studio but couldn't pass the credit check. Finally, I got another email. Subject, we're sorry. Ethan, we understand now. We were wrong. We used you. We lied. Please, just help us one more time. We'll make it right. I didn't reply, but I did print it, framed it, hung it above my desk. A daily reminder that even the people who raise you can drown you if you don't learn to swim away. And I was done drowning. It got darker before it got quiet. I didn't know they'd contacted my ex. Didn't know they begged her to intervene, to talk some sense into Ethan. She showed up at my apartment, arms crossed, looking like a ghost from a life I'd already buried. They said you're being cruel, she said. They also said they raised me, paid for my college, helped with my rent, I replied. They didn't? I opened a drawer and handed her a thick envelope, copies of receipts, wire transfers, bills in my name, not theirs. She sat down, silent. They played you too, I added. Just like they played me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused, because 2 days after that I got a letter. From a lawyer I didn't recognize. Turned out my grandfather had passed. A man I barely knew. And he left behind something unexpected. Land. Property. Shares. But there was a clause, an ugly one. Ethan may inherit under one condition. His parents must not contest the will. If they do, the estate goes to charity. And suddenly, they came running. Crying. Apologizing. Knocking on my door like it was still their home. They knew. They must have heard from someone in the family. Ethan, Dad said, we never meant for things to go this far. We're still your parents, Mom added. Blood is blood. I smiled. Not bitter. Just clean. You're right, I said. Blood is blood. Then I pulled out a document. A waiver. A release form. If you sign this, agreeing not to contest anything, I'll make sure you get a place to live. Modest. Safe. But nothing more. My mom looked ready to sign. But Dad? He hesitated. Always the gambler. I raised you, he said. You owe us. I leaned in. You raised me. Then abandoned me. You want a return on investment? Ask your freedom. He stormed off. But Mom signed. Quietly. Without a word. That night I slept deeper than I had in years. Because the greatest revenge isn't anger. It's silence. It's boundaries. And it's watching the people who used to control you need you. The land was beautiful. 12 acres of untouched hills, an old vineyard, and a farmhouse with a broken fence and history in its bones. I walked the property with my lawyer and the estate agent. They talked numbers. I just listened to the wind. Felt like mine. Like peace with roots. But just as we were preparing the papers, I got another call. Blocked number. I knew who. I answered anyway. You're selling it? Dad said. No greeting. Just accusation. It's mine now, I said. You walked away, remember? It belonged to my father. And he left it to me, I replied. With one condition. Which you almost cost me. You're punishing us. No, I said calm and sharp. I'm finally not rescuing you. He laughed. It was bitter. You think you're powerful now? All this money, this land? It won't heal you. I paused. Then said softly. It already did. He hung up. The next week I held a private auction for part of the land. Investors, local buyers, developers, they came curious. I came prepared. I didn't want all of it. Just enough to build something new. So I sold 9 acres. Kept the rest. And I made sure the sale was public. Not for ego but for closure. Because 2 days after the news broke, I got one last message from my dad. Just 2 lines. We saw the article. You win. But this wasn't about winning. It was about walking away from the fire without looking back. I took the check from the auction and wired a small portion to a rental agency, for a modest apartment in their name. 1 year prepaid. No more. Then I blocked every number. I wasn't angry. I was done. Because sometimes the only way to break a cycle is to cut the cord completely. And for the first time in my life, there was no weight on my shoulders. Only wind. I didn't expect to fall in love with dirt. But there I was, hands covered in soil, shirt soaked in sweat, surrounded by grapevines that hadn't seen care in a decade. I hired a small team. Local. Honest. People who showed up early, asked nothing about my past, and worked with the kind of dignity you can't fake. We cleared brush, repaired fences, dug deep into the earth and let it breathe again. There was something healing about it, this slow, deliberate rebirth. And as the vineyard came alive, so did I. No more late-night panic. No more waiting for another call that would drag me back into chaos. Just sun, vines, and silence that didn't hurt. But the past doesn't let go easy. A cousin showed up. Jacob. Always the middleman. Always playing both sides. Your dad's in bad shape, he said. Health? I asked. Money, Jacob said. And pride. I said nothing. He looked around at the vineyard, the house, the peace I'd built. All this came from him in a way. No, I said. This came from surviving him. Jacob didn't know what to say, so I gave him something to carry back. I'm not angry anymore. I just don't owe him anything. And that's the difference between me and him. I don't want power. I want peace. A week later, I received a letter. No return address. Handwritten. Ethan, you were always stronger than me. I thought if I pushed you far enough, you'd come back needing us. I was wrong. Don't worry. I won't call again. Take care of your vineyard. Dad. I read it once, then twice. Then I lit a match and burned it. Not out of hate, but to mark the end. The wind scattered the ashes into the soil, and somehow the vines seemed to stand taller. As if they knew. This land no longer carried the weight of the past, only the promise of something better. By autumn, the vines were heavy with fruit. Not perfect, not yet, but real. I walked the rows before dawn, dew on my boots, the sky blushing with light. The land breathed differently now. Not with sorrow. With strength. Locals started calling the place the Break Line. A name I didn't choose, but it fit. Because this wasn't just a vineyard. It was the line where I broke from my past, and didn't look back. People started coming. First out of curiosity. Then with respect. They'd sit on the patio I built with my own hands, sipping small batch wine, asking about the taste, never the story. And I liked it that way. But one evening, as the sun melted behind the hills, I saw her. My mother. She stood at the gate like a ghost, unsure if she should cross. Then, pale, holding something wrapped in a cloth. I didn't move. She stepped closer, slowly. I heard it was harvest, she said. Thought you might want this. She handed me the cloth. Inside was a photo. Me at 12. Mud-stained shirt. Holding a tiny vine in a schoolyard science project. I found it in an old drawer, she said, eyes wet. I remembered, you always loved growing things. I didn't say a word. Didn't invite her in. But I didn't shut the gate either. I'm not here to ask for anything, she whispered. I know we broke you. No, I said, voice even. You revealed me. There's a difference. She nodded. Then looked out at the land, mine, not hers. It's beautiful. I know. She turned to go. And just before disappearing into the twilight, she said, I hope someday you grow something sweeter than we ever gave you. I watched her vanish down the dirt road. Didn't cry. Didn't chase. But I did walk inside, pour a glass from the first batch, and take one long, slow sip. It was earthy. Bold. And honest. Not sweet yet, but getting there. The day of the launch felt like nothing I'd imagined. No ribbon cutting. No champagne. Just a handwritten chalkboard outside the vineyard gate. The brake line, open. Cars pulled in slow. People stepped out quieter than I expected. It wasn't a crowd. It was a gathering. Strangers who'd watched the vines grow each week during their morning commutes. Locals who remembered the old man who used to walk these hills, my grandfather. And a few familiar faces I didn't expect. Jacob came. So did my ex. They didn't say much. They didn't have to. We served the first bottle of wine at sunset. I made a toast. To new roots, I said, raising my glass. To the kind that grow because of the storms, not in spite of them. There were nods. Quiet clinks of glass. And in the stillness that followed, I felt something lift. Not applause. Not validation. Just completion. After everyone left, I sat on the porch alone. The stars blinking awake overhead. A fire flickering low beside me. That's when I saw 2 envelopes under the door. No names. Inside the first, a check. Small. 1 year of rent returned in full. No note. Just acknowledgement. Inside the second, a photograph. My father. Standing behind a broken fence, holding a glass of red wine. My wine. Someone had taken it from across the road. He didn't smile. But he held the glass like it meant something. And somehow, that was enough. Not for reconciliation. Not for forgiveness. But for release. I poured myself the last glass from bottle number 1, sat beneath the stars, closed my eyes, and said, not to him but to the universe. You don't have to burn bridges to leave. Sometimes you just plant vines on the other side. And with that the story ended. No revenge. No collapse. Just distance. And growth.